The court should ask itself, what is the state trying to hide here?
Shush.
And Taylor blasts the prosecutor in the Brian Kohberger case. What are you trying to hide?
Doesn't Kohberger have his right to have his own case public? Is there something that the state is trying to hide? I'm Lainey Law.
And I'm attorney Andrew Myers.
And there's been some recent developments that have people fighting back and forth. Is the state trying to hide something? If the defense is fighting for their case to be more public, why can't that be the case? What are we looking at today?
Well, things got a little bit crazy in the 2nd District Idaho Court in Moscow when there was a hearing on whether the motion to compel evidence by Brian Kohberger's attorney, whether the hearing should be public. Now, it would seem to me this should be handled on paper. Many motions are handled on paper. You file a motion, you want it open. The other side files a motion that it should be closed, and then the judge, issues an order. No, they spent about an hour arguing over this in the Brian Kohberger case. And it just was a little bit nuts. Ann Taylor started out by just basically asking the prosecution, why don't we have the evidence? Why do we really even need 5 motions to compel? And why can't the hearing be public?
This isn't the state trying to protect Brian's interests at all. He has the right to the public hearing. This is the state trying to protect what the state's doing. And the court should look back through the history of this case. This is our 4th and 5th motion to compel. Motions to compel 1, 2, and 3 were public. They were right out in the open with the public. The specific discovery requests were also sealed. So this has been a pattern to do things in the public. And now this one needs to be sealed. The court has to ask itself why. And the court should ask itself, what is the state trying to hide here?
And so Ann Taylor went on and listed a number of things that the state has said it would produce. The state says, oh, well, we've produced everything. We've given you 95% of everything. And she lists the things that she's entitled to and the state hasn't given her. Ann Taylor pointed to information the state has failed to produce. And she's asking, what are they hiding? Why aren't they producing it? And moreover, why can't the hearing be held in public?
And I think something important too, at least in the court of public opinion, is that her fighting for things to be public, I think looks really good on her. Not necessarily, obviously, we don't know what's going in that court, what judge is thinking, and we don't have the jury and everything yet. But I think from how this has become a media sensation, I think this makes their defense look really good.
In a second, we're going to see what Judge is thinking.
Why can we not talk about the things they're not giving us? Why can we not talk about the cell phone information, the tower information, the drive test information in a public arena? Why should Brian have to have his case, when he's asking for this information, be done in a little vacuum where the state says what the public can hear and what the public can't hear? Another example of this, Your Honor, is with the video tape that they've relied a lot on in their probable cause affidavit that we've received different parts of. Part of the hearing on the 14th is to talk about the different parts of that video that we've received and how we need the whole context. This is the video that they say places this car near the residence. We've received little tiny pieces of that. And we think Brian's right to a fair trial means the public needs to know that they've withheld the audio from a great portion of that, and that it starts a long time before the little clip that we've received.
This is really significant, and the reason it's significant is because of that 18-page probable cause affidavit, which, had Kohberger driving his car here and driving his car there, and then going off the grid. It was turned off or went into airplane mode or whatever. It wasn't reporting to the cell towers, and then later on it was reporting to the cell towers and went to Albertson's grocery store. He got a cup of coffee. But what Ann Taylor is trying to impress the court with is that there's this affidavit of probable cause, which we've all been hanging on for a year and 5 months, year and a half, whatever. And the state hasn't proven it. The state has refused to come up with the evidence that supports that probable cause affidavit. And if the probable cause affidavit isn't supported, what else isn't supported? So Ann Taylor did something really very unusual. Often when an attorney is defending a client, people will ask you, how can you defend somebody who you know is guilty? Well, I don't know if they're guilty. You know what? Every single person who's accused of a crime in this country is entitled to a fair trial. It's in the Sixth Amendment of the Constitution. You can't even argue with that. Anybody is entitled to a fair trial. So that's what defense attorneys usually say. They don't come right out and say that their client is innocent because, I went to a seminar with a bunch of very good defense attorneys, and some of them say, we don't want to know. We don't want to know. We just want to make sure we can walk out of the courtroom knowing that our client had a fair trial. But in this case, Ann Taylor, as you are going to see right now, says, and this isn't the first time she said it, she thinks that Mr. Kohberger is innocent.
Your Honor, Brian is innocent.
So there you have it.
I feel like it's really bold to come out and say that, especially knowing how much press this whole case is getting and how this is going to be in the media. It's really scary to think if Kohberger is innocent, we just have someone out there running around who never got convicted. And I think to see her be able to say that about her client, especially when you hear all this stuff that he was, misogynistic, I guess, allegedly. So the fact that she's going on a limb and saying that publicly, knowing that however many millions of people are going to be watching that, I think has value.
Well, he may have been this, he may have been that. We've read stuff outside of the probable cause affidavit and all these newspapers, the Daily Mirror, the Spokane Spoke, whatever. We've read a lot of stuff about him, but for his own attorney to say that he's innocent is significant. I'm not saying he's innocent. I'm not saying he's guilty. I'm saying that every single defendant who's accused of a crime is entitled to a fair trial and a presumption of innocence. But the other thing that was very striking, remember a minute or so ago, I said, I'm going to tell you what's in the judge's mind. He's actually arguing the state's position. He's not saying, okay, here's the defense. Okay, here's the state. He's actually arguing the state's position. He let Ashley Jennings, the prosecutor, argue her case. Then he starts arguing with Ann Taylor, and he starts taking the state's position. It was just, I've never seen anything like it. I really haven't, and here it is.
I don't know where did it stop, though. I mean, if we start pulling out all the potential evidence before the trial, then does the state get to respond to that? And that's where does it start? I mean, or stop? It just is a roll.
Remember in one of our previous episodes, we talked about how they had 3 hours of hearings on another issue. And I said, geez, 3 hours of court time. That's an awful lot of court time. Well, it seems like the judge had already made up his mind. So I don't know why they had 3 hours of hearings in the previous episode we talked about. And now this hearing took an hour. And remember that the issue in this hearing was whether or not to allow the cameras in on May 14th, when they're going to be arguing the fourth and fifth motions to compel. That's the issue. And it seems to me the judge had already made up his mind from the way he's arguing the state's point of view. So here's another hour that this court has wasted on this case. And something that I found odd, and I've never seen in a court ever before. I make myself sound old to say I've been practicing law for 3 decades, but I have. And here's something I've never, ever, ever seen in any court, anywhere, at any time. And Lainey, I'm going to ask you, did I see what I thought I saw here? Did Ashley Jennings shush Ann Taylor as Ann Taylor was listing the evidence that the state is withholding? Listen real close. Listen really closely.
Oh my God.
And I can talk a ton about the cell phone information, the cell tower information, and the things that they have not given us, the drive test information, the verification of Shush.
Did Ashley Jennings just shush Ann Taylor?
It's crazy unprofessional. Crazy unprofessional for no reason.
I think I cut this off a little bit.
That's the thing.
And the judge is kind of laughing at it. The judge is having a good time with that. And I had to blow this up in the resolution in the courts. You know, they have the two pictures. On one side, you see the prosecution. On the other side, you have the defense. And then you have a picture of the judge. So the resolution isn't really that great. Not as good as our fine podcasting cameras, but
with all the funding in the world, this is what we got.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, so Ashley Jennings seems to be having a good time and laughing. Ann Taylor's looking over at her thinking, did you just shush me? And even Bill Thompson is looking at her like, huh, what? Am I reading too much into that?
Oh my God. It seems like a little evil scene. It's a little maniacal. No shade. I don't know who she is. Like maybe this is a moment of delusion. I don't know. I don't know what the justification for that. I don't know in what scenario that would be professional to do.
All right, we're going to listen to it again because maybe I'm reading too much into it. But viewers, let me know if I'm reading too much into this. And the question is, did Ashley Jennings shush Ann Taylor as Taylor was listing all the evidence the state is withholding in this case?
And I can talk a ton about the cell phone information, the cell tower information, and the things that they have not given us, the drive test information, the verification of Shush.
I heard it. Did she say shush?
Crazy.
And the judge is having a good time with this. Not only is it unbelievable that one attorney says shush. Now, I'll tell you the truth. I've been in court where I wanted to tell the other attorney shush, but you don't. You know, that stays in here. That stays in here. Then you go to the gym and you punch a punching bag. But that Ashley Jennings said shush to Ann Taylor, but B, the judge is having a good time with this.
For no reason. That didn't need to happen.
It's never seen anything like it. Okay. So, I'm speechless. That never happens. I'm never speechless. But anyhow, even after all of this, now you just saw with your own eyes and your own ears that Ann Taylor has just listed all of the evidence that has been promised to her, some of which was under deadline of the end of March. And here it is May, the trees are blooming, and she still doesn't have it. So after all the evidence is specifically listed, you know, the video, the audio, the final cast report, etc., Bill Thompson has the nerve to get up and deny it.
So the characterization that we are just consciously withholding information to frustrate the defense is utter nonsense. That is not true. We will provide everything we can that is providable under the rules. If we disagree on something, whether it exists or not, because I can tell you, many of the things that the defendant has tried to itemize, when we talk to our people, they say, that doesn't exist.
Your Honor, I want to respond to that, and I could give you particular examples of things, and it's already been ordered to be given to us, the cast report, which was a draft that we were promised to have by March 31st.
The cast report, that is the, for those of you who do not know, that's the FBI cell activity report that is supposedly going to tell everybody, you know, supporting the information that's in the probable cause affidavit, that yes, a draft has been provided to the defense, but not the final. And if you know anything about the FBI, particularly, but any legal document, things can change on a dime. No, it's, you know, how can the prosecutor deny that they've given them something when they haven't?
It's May 2nd. We don't have it. So for the prosecutor to stand up and say that I'm misrepresenting things, he's misrepresenting things, Your Honor.
Oh,
that's there.
You know what? Let's not.
So when they finally, you know, do start talking about Turkey, and it gets down to the brass tacks, oh no, I don't want to hear about that. Oh no, I don't want to hear about that.
Yeah, that's a little messed up. It's like that she can shush and they can say that, you know, Ann Taylor's wrong, but then Ann Taylor proves her point. It's like, oh, well, they were supposed to give this to me and they haven't. Now all of a sudden he's saying something. I don't know. Rubs me wrong.
So, you know, the bottom line here is that Ann Taylor has brought 5 motions to compel evidence, and a lot of it we don't know about because a lot of it is sealed. And she even said that in this hearing that, you know, I can't disclose some of this because it could be harmful, it could be dangerous to people, citing the Idaho rule. But, you know, here we are a year and not quite a half into the case, and, you know, evidence has still not been provided. So people blame Ann Taylor for dragging this out. People say, oh, why? Well, you know, if you're defending someone and you believe they're innocent, and you at the very least have a constitutional duty of good faith to presume that they're innocent, and the Bar Association requires that we all approach all of our cases with due diligence and you know, doing everything we can possibly do for our defendant. With that duty on her, how can you blame her when she's just simply asking for them to, hey, we want the evidence that supports that probable cause affidavit, or else the probable cause affidavit is rubbish. But, you know, I guess the court doesn't see it that way. The court thinks it's just A-okay to keep it all private. And in the end, you know, there was a ruling by the judge, and in the end, guess what? This will be a real mystery to you that the judge did say, well, I'm going to keep the hearing private if you decide. And they've done this in some other cases. If you feel that we do want to bring some of it public, we'll make it public. And that's happened in previous hearings where they've argued things in private, and then they've come out and, you know, like one of the IgG DNA hearings was like that. They argued for a couple hours in private, then they came out and had like a show hearing for a little while. So that might happen here. But it just seems to me that the judge went into this hearing with his mind already made up, and Ann Taylor was going to have the cards stacked against her. And so again, I asked, like I did in a previous episode, what's the point? Why is the court, you know, the judge himself said during this episode, not during this episode, but during this hearing, the judge himself said, I have a lot of other cases. Well, why don't you go to those cases if you already decided this one?
Ann Taylor is like the most gaslit attorney by a judge. It's like, it's an exceptionally private case. And she's like, let's make it public. And it's just like, nope, can't do that. Can't do that. We're going to ignore the fact that, you know, it's your client, like you're defending your client. It's your client who should be concerned about his privacy. But no. This has to be private. For what? For what reason? If the client, because you would think that if we're looking at privacy concerns, it would relate to the fact that we have this person and all this information is being on the internet and people are going to come to their conclusions. You would think that the person being prosecuted would be the one concerned about things being public, and it just, none of this makes sense to me.
The basic idea between a non-disclosure order and indeed the ethical rules that provide that attorneys walk on eggshells when we talk about a case is that the defendant has a right to a fair trial. That is the defendant's right. It's firmly embedded in the 6th and the 14th Amendments of the United States Constitution. And the states all have their own constitutional dictates and statutes. So that is the defendant's right. It is the defendant's right to say, I want as little publicity as possible. Because as has been pointed out in this hearing and elsewhere, a lot of stuff out there just assumes that he's guilty. A lot of, you know, you pick up, I'm not going to disparage anyone at all because I love court TV. They bring stuff to us that we can watch, and they've brought court proceedings into people's laptops and other devices. But they've assumed that he's guilty. They really have. They've really, you know, the case against Brian Kohberger, and play all the music and bang the drums. And that's not the only media outlet that's out there that really is banging the drums for the guilt of Brian Kohberger. And let's get the case moving. Well, so my point is that the privacy right is the right of the defendants. For the state to turn that on its ear, Ann Taylor has every right to question, what do you have to hide here? So it's crazy. This is the case that keeps on giving.
And it just feels long and drawn out for no reason. I feel like if it's true that they were supposed to give it to her and they haven't given it to her, like if they were supposed to hand it over in March and it's May now, this whole thing, it smells bad.
I want to ask our viewers again, am I misreading that, or did you can go, I don't have to play it again. You can scrub back and play it over again. Did Ashley Jennings really tell Ann Taylor to shush? I played it a couple of times, and I'm looking at the expressions on their faces, and I think she said shush. If somebody shushed me in court, I don't know what I'd do.
I was gonna say I'd be in court myself. I'd
say, why don't you go take a walk? I'd say WTF, really. I can't believe if that's what happened. Now, we weren't in the courtroom. We don't have good audio. We have no idea. Maybe she said, can I offer you a Slurpee after the hearing? We don't know. We have no idea. If that happened to me, I think I'd have turned to her and said something. I don't know. I really don't know.
Oh my God. No, I'm not professional enough to hold my composure in that situation if someone did that to me.
No, me neither. Okay. Do you have any closing thoughts, or is that it?
No, like I said before, guys, let me know what you think of our new setup. Thank you guys so much for joining us for the past year. We are so lucky that you guys enjoy our podcast, and I'm really looking forward to what you guys have to say in the comments, and also what other cases you would like us to talk about.
Yeah, tell us the other cases. We're trying to get into some new cases with the new season. We've dropped an episode on Karen Reed, or we're going to drop an episode on Karen Reed. Crazy case. And we know there are a lot of other cases out there, but this is the one that our commenters seem to be really the most interested in. So if you have other episodes you want us to dive into, we'll dive into them. What do I always say at this time? Be nice, be kind, be respectful, whether you're in the grocery store, the gas station, be polite. You don't know what other people are going through, and especially in our comments section. We got a couple of doozies for comments this week. I do delete them.
You guys are unlistenable. Then don't listen.
Oh, yeah. You're unlistenable. No, I'm unlistenable. We're both unlistenable.
We're both unlistenable. Thank you guys for listening to our Unlistenable podcast.
Have a good week. You have been watching About the Law, a production of the law offices of Andrew D. Myers in Methuen in the Merrimack Valley of Massachusetts, and in Derry, just outside of Manchester, New Hampshire. Remember to click the like and subscribe buttons down below. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to share it with your friends and others. If you'd like to talk to me about an injury case, a car accident, a slip and fall, a serious bodily injury case, or some other case, please feel free to contact me. I'd love to talk to you. You can contact us through my website at attorney-myers.com. We have a contact us block, or you can call on one of the telephone numbers we've given there, or you can email me at andrew@attorney-myers.com. The foregoing is offered for informational purposes only. It is not intended as and does not constitute legal advice. Laws vary widely from state to state. You should rely only on the advice given to you during a personal consultation by a local attorney thoroughly familiar with state laws and the area of practice in which your concern lies. This podcast must be and hereby is labeled advertisement in some jurisdictions.
Shush.
Dong.
And that's that. Where's my gavel?
That's that.
You made us move, and now I don't have my gavel.
Absolute chaos. This year 2 of the podcast is straight up chaos.
It is chaos.
I wonder if the cast report got lost in the tunnels.
Oh, good grief! Here we go with the tunnels again. Who knows? Who knows? We get some really odd comments. Some of the comments you're biased. And then we didn't do our segment this week that we do sometimes on viewer comments, but people are just so adamant in their opinions. We did that piece on Kaylee Gonsalves and all of her bank accounts. And one person said, it's suspicious that she had all those bank accounts. And another person with an equal amount of veracity, equal amount of force said, all kids have those bank accounts. Why are you even talking about that? It's like, people have an opinion. That's fine. It shows that you're thinking. But to just tell us that we're wrong for being one way or the other, give me a break.
I just think about those people. Like, I'm usually a little bit of a pushover, but I can say no to the credit cards at stores. How many people will just say yes to signing up for the credit card, never use the card, but just because they didn't want to say no?
Shush.
Yeah, and the bank accounts, I mean, it's true. And people say, I never heard of that. I never heard of that. But I'm telling you right now,
Shush.
you go to buy a car and you need a car loan, credit unions especially are going to require, and many banks require that you open a bank account. They just require you to open a bank account because they want you to have that checking and savings account. Because they get extra chits and credit from up top in South Dakota or Atlanta or wherever the bank is located, not in your hometown. They get chits for having as many accounts as they can have. But that's not the real reason. The real reason is so they want direct deposit of your paycheck. So if you get your paycheck on the 28th of the month, they scoop it up on the 29th of the month to pay that loan. So I actually had people, I had kind of alluded to this, not as forcefully as I am now in our last episode, and people, I never heard of that. Like I'm on Mars and I don't know anything about finances. People, I do bankruptcies for my clients, and I have to know everything about your finances if you come to me to do that. I have to know everything, all your bank accounts, all of your credit cards. So, yeah, that's a thing. And if you never heard of it, it's still a thing.
I will vouch, even if you've never heard of it, I will vouch. When I opened up my checking account with my credit union, they had me open up a savings account, and my savings account permanently has $5 that I can't. It's like a $5. I don't even know that it just builds interest forever. I'm getting five interest on my $5 just for my checking account, so they exist.
Yeah. Well, I opened up an account many years ago. In a credit union because I needed it for a car loan. And I think I had to buy a $25 share of stock. I never got it back. When I moved, I never got it back. So I have to check the newspaper for those. You know how they have those
lost money,
abandoned money. I should. If you get interest up, it's probably worth $1 million by now. Although actually a penny a year, it's probably not worth.
We built it up to $30.
Oh wow! I won't be able to retire on that, I guess.
Right. Thank you guys for watching.
Be kind, be polite, and be respectful of the other guy who has a different opinion, and be respectful of us. All right.
And be respectful of the horses.
The horses. There are no horses
or tunnels.
Shush.